Hey, what's up, mortals? It is Jayce here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 2 of Deku the Shield Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, hey, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Izuku! Izuku! It's time to get... Inko Midoriya's sentence was cut short as she opened the door to her son's room, a frown appearing on her face. The room was practically an All Might shrine, with posters of the #1 hero covering up most of the wall, while figures of the blonde man lined most of the shelves. There were a few other action figures of other heroes, such as Midnight and Crust, but you would need a keen eye to spot them. There was one area of the room that was free of All Might, the workbench where Izuku, now a 14-year-old teen, sat in front of, half dressed in his school uniform. The jacket hung on the back of his chair. The green-haired boy was so engrossed in his current project that he hadn't heard either his mother's voice or her opening the door. Instead, he continued to chisel at the band of metal as he formed it into a highly decorated bracelet with several small red-colored gems embedded into it. Off to the side were several other items Izuku had made recently, things like hairpins, keychains, rings, and other such items that he had crafted himself now laying in the box. Izuku! Raising her voice seemed to do the trick as Izuku jumped in his seat, the tool he was using flying out of his hand before landing on the floor with a thump. What? Oh, Mom! Sorry, you scared me. As Izuku turned in his seat to look at his mother, his elbow collided with one of the few books on his workbench, a book on ancient medicines. Already, there was a small row of glass vials lining the back of his workspace, each one filled with the green liquid and capped. Have you been up all night? As Inko asked this, she raised an eyebrow at her son as she eyed his uniform, looking for any signs that it was the same one he had worn yesterday. No, I'm not making that mistake again. As Izuku said this, he stood up and put on the jacket of his middle school uniform. As he did, the sleeve slid underneath the shield that had been on his arm since he was 4 years old. Despite being unable to remove it from his body, the jacket slid underneath the shield as if it wasn't there. I just got up a little early and, well, inspiration hit me as I was getting dressed. Didn't want to lose it, so I started working and, oh well, you know the rest. Okay, but next time inspiration hits, how about you just jot it down in one of those notebooks of yours? A smile appeared on Inko's face as she saw her son's horror-filled expression. Mom! You know those are my hero journals! I can't just sketch something like that in one of those! They'll get mixed up! Better than being late for school. Now, come and eat your breakfast or else you'll be going to school hungry. Later, the green-haired youth made his way down the sidewalks towards his middle school, one eye on his phone as people and a few filials had passed him by. On occasion, he would glance up at the large, feathery, ostrich-like creatures, noting the light shading of the colored feathers on their head before going back to what he was looking at. While he still had interest in some of them, the shock of the creation a few years ago had worn off as they were now more common. When he was about halfway to his destination, the young Midoriya spotted an odd sight. Camera crews were taking pictures of a hero he had never seen before, a blonde-haired woman dressed mostly in purple with horns coming out of her head. Standing next to her, head hung low while being heavily bound, was someone who Izuku could only assume as a villain. His heart sank a little as he began to put two and two together. He had missed a hero fight, perhaps this woman's big debut. I can't believe this! If I had just left a little earlier, I could have made it here in time to watch the whole thing. Maybe Mom's right. The next time inspiration hits, I'll just write it down. Guess I better get a different notebook for them. Maybe a sketch pad so I don't get them mixed up. Or one of those mini notebooks that... Just as Izuku's mind was starting to go into overdrive, he spotted something else that caught his attention. There, on all fours, looking down on the ground, was another hero. Kamui Woods! A mix of horror and excitement washed over Izuku as he looked at the hero. Horror that he had missed out on seeing the Wood hero in action. Excitement that, if he helped out, he might have left something behind for Izuku to use. For the next several minutes, Izuku began looking around any area that wasn't taped off by the police until he came upon a thick piece of wood that was laying in the street. Quickly taking it, he rushed over to Kamui Woods, asking if he could keep it. The Wood hero just gave a shrug. At that, he just had got up. With permission given, Izuku held up his shield and stared at the green gem in its center. As he held the wood up, Izuku began to recall memories of what had happened after Midnight had questioned him. The hospital that had taken care of him had its own quirk specialist on hand, making Izuku grateful that he didn't need to see the last doctor who had bluntly told him he was quirkless. The doctor, whose quirk had stethoscopes dangling from his earlobes, had examined Izuku with a pleasant smile before pulling up a chair.
Well, this isn't the type of quirk you see every day.
As the doctor spoke, he almost seemed to rock back and forth in his seat as he's trying to hold back his excitement, one that matched by the young child you gazed up at him with emerald-colored eyes.
Oh my, I don't know where to begin. I guess I should start off by telling you that the name of your quirk is called Legendary Weapon Shield. I never thought I'd live to see it in real life.
Legendary weapon? Doctor, what is that exactly?
To be honest, we don't know, and that's what's so exciting. Your son isn't the first one to wield this quirk. Since the dawn of quirks, this quirk has appeared twice before. Nor is it the only weapon-type quirk out there. They are rare, and appear just as often as the shield. According to my records, the last time this quirk was seen was around 100 years ago, in Europe along with 3 other weapons: the sword, the bow, and the spear. And because these quirks are not passed down genetically and behave differently than how normal quirks work there are some specialists of quirks who believe that these weapons are not really a quirk. Rather, they believe that people like young Izuku have a quirk that allows them to summon forth and bond with these weapons. But there are others that disagree, saying they have to be a part of a quirk. And
The doctor, who had begun to stand at his speech, became more and more excited. Suddenly, he paused as he noted the wide-eyed expressions on both the Midoriyas' faces. Quickly realizing that he had needed to calm down, the doctor took a deep breath before continuing.
Well, the truth is, we don't know everything there is. All we know is that your son is now the wielder of this shield quirk. For right now, all I can tell you is that he's now a bit more durable. Hopefully, in time, he'll be able to discover what his quirk can do. And maybe he'll be willing to share it with me. Pretty please.
Since that day, Izuku had learned a few things about his quirk. For starters, he discovered that while he could move the shield around his body, he was unable to take it off. He also had learned that back when he started middle school and wanted to take up kendo, he was unable to hold the wooden sword. In fact, whenever he would try to pick up any weapon, it would be repealed right from his grasp. While both of those things were interesting, they paled in comparison to the most interesting feature of the shield. Holding up the piece of wood over the gem, Izuku released it and watched as it sank into the center of the shield. The green gem then glowed for a moment, as the image of a massive, interconnecting group of circles appeared in his mind. Izuku had no idea what prompted him to try this in the first place. He remembered that he had been young and had used a simple leaf at the time. But from that simple leaf, Izuku learned that by doing this, he could gain new shields. With his new leaf shield, Izuku found that he could learn more about the plants he came into contact with, but also modify them slightly. Not to any insane degree like other heroes, just making them healthier. At least, at first. Since then, the green-haired youth had gained an impressive collection of shields from all sorts of minerals, from rocks to bugs to animal fur, and even everyday items. Izuku fed them all into the green gem, gaining all sorts of different shields. Though some of his best shields came from people's quirks. Izuku stayed where he was, watching as a new circle in his metal grid was added. With a smile, he turned to continue his track to school. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you want to learn how to write scripts and edit audio? Skillshare has you covered. And with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in the description down below. As Izuku was seated in his class, One of his fellow classmates approached him with a nervous expression. Hey, Midoriya, look, I know I promised I wouldn't pester you about that request, but, well, Hinata's birthday is coming up really soon, and... Oh, right. Without another word, Izuku reached into his bag to pull out a small box. Holding it out, the green-haired teen opened it, revealing a silver pendant shaped like a hydra, blue and green crystals embedded in its 3 necks. Attached to the pendant was a silver chain. Upon seeing it, Izuku's classmate's eyes softened in appreciation as he pulled out his wallet. Midoriya, you are my hero right now. As he said this, the teen handed Midoriya the previously agreed upon amount before taking the box in his hand. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'm hoping me and Hinata can get into the same school, but if we don't, and she ends up going far away, I at least want her to have something to remember me by. Something special, one of a kind like her, and something that I can afford. Hey, I know you're hoping to get into the UA, but if the hero course doesn't work out, then maybe you should just do this full time. I know I would if I had your skills. Just as Izuku raised his hand to wave off this comment, the sound of a foot being slammed onto a deck rang out throughout the classroom. Oh, please! The words came from none other than Katsuki Bakugo, the ashen-haired blonde who was sitting at a desk near the window, trying to fix his seemingly eternal angry red eyes upon the 2 teens. As if Deku has even the slightest chance of getting into a school like UA. Sure, his quirk may be a step up from the rest of you extras, but not by much. Not nearly enough to get into the best hero school in the country. Why would they even consider letting in a nobody with a shitty defensive quirk like his? Well, there's no harm in trying, Kacchan. Bakugo, seemingly enraged by Midoriya's calm and friendly tone, turned in his seat to slam both feet onto the ground. The explosive blonde then stood, causing most of the rest of the class to jump back, save for 2. Midoriya, who had just continued to look at him, with a smile on his face, and the classmate standing next to him, who just gave Bakugo a deadpan expression. Snarling, Bakugo began to approach the green-haired teen. Do you think that you can stand up to a villain? Bakugo suddenly stopped, the anger in his face lessening for a moment as his eyes shot toward Izuku's scar-covered hand. He then made a face as if the appendage had somehow insulted him, grinding his teeth before turning around. Do whatever you want. Just stay out of my way or I'll kill you. And with that, Bakugo walked back to his seats with his hands in his pockets. Everyone watched as the explosive blonde then sat back in his seat, an angry aura seeming to surround him as he did so. Has the dude never even heard of crust? Just then, the bell rang, signaling the beginning of class, and Izuku's classmate then turned to look at the shield user, a grateful smile on his face as he held up the box. Thanks again, Midoriya. I'll be rooting for you. With that, Izuku's classmate turned away as he pocketed the gift. At the same time, Izuku just pulled out his school supplies and began setting them on his desk, just as the teacher walked in carrying a huge stack of papers. When classes ended, Izuku left the building while exchanging a few words with various students along the way. The only one who ignored him completely was Bakugo, who shot him a dirty look before turning to look away. Not that Izuku took it too personally. Having known Bakugo for years, he was used to it. As he left the school grounds, he turned and began walking a familiar route towards the gym he frequented. This wasn't one of the larger, more well-known gym chains in the region, but instead a small family-owned one. And while they couldn't offer the more specialized equipment that the larger gyms offer to people with various quirks, the equipment was well-maintained and the price was easy on his wallet. I wonder how long I should work out tonight. 2 hours would give me the best workout, and I don't have that much homework tonight. But I do want to hit the bookstore and see if they have any more books on medicine. Plus, I need to get in as much studying as I can if I want to pass the written portion of the UA entrance exam. So maybe working out for an hour? No, wait, an hour and a half. Smiling at his decision, Izuku reached into his pocket to pull out his phone so he could double-check the time the bookstore closed, as well as see if there was any noteworthy hero news that happened since lunch. As soon as he held the phone up, his eyes fell onto his scars. Scars that were a reminder of why he wanted to be a hero. To save others with everything he had, and to bring back their smiles. Just like how he had with Raphtalia. A blush found its way onto Izuku's freckled cheeks as he recalled the last time he had seen Raftalia at the hospital. She had been brought into his room in a wheelchair, and despite how sick she was, the girl was bursting with so much life and smiling so much that Izuku almost didn't recognize her. Tears had welled up in his eyes, happy that he had been able to give that back to her, that he had been able to do what people like All Might did all the time. The only way that moment could have gotten any better was if the mighty symbol of peace himself came in to give Izuku a thumbs up. I wonder how she's doing. Maybe, someday, I'll see her again. With that, Izuku continued on his path to the gym. Only 10 months remained before the UA entrance exam after all. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that we, the Celestials, have many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.